Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And I'm Argy.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, the podcast where we make souffles because this week we watched Asylum of the Daleks.
Written by Stephen Moffat.
Directed by Nick. I still don't know how to pronounce his last name like many of the directors on the show, Haran.
And aired on September 1st, 2012.
Yeah.
Nice. And look, before we head into this one, I've just got to quickly reference back to the Doctor's wife, because when in all the kerfuffle, I forgot to say that I've actually watched that episode 4 times, but I've watched Idris say, "I think you call me sexy," about 20 times due to Saran Jones' excellent delivery. I love watching her say that, so I've watched it many times.
Yeah, well, there you go. We're joined once again by RG, who, if you hadn't picked up from that opening segment, was on previously on our Doctor's Wife episode. I don't remember how long ago that was. Not that long.
Last season.
So about 2 months, 3 months. 2 months? It was October.
Yeah, 2.5 months
about
ago.
right. And you're not just being joined by me this time, because I watched this episode with my husband Stuart.
We're joined by the phantom spirit of RG's wife.
So he likes to be called Stu. No, that's okay.
I was thinking of Doctor's wife.
Yeah, you were on the Doctor's wife, and now we're getting
hearing
RG's
from
husband.
RG's husband. It's the name of this episode, RG's husband.
No, he can be Stu. So I'm going to mention all the things he said, and he doesn't watch Doctor Who very often. And I did get permission from him. He said I could do this. So it's not like I stealthily wrote everything down and then went, ha-ha!
I got you.
Famous, though you don't realise it, yeah. So, yeah.
So I guess we should talk production information first, which is, well, it's curious, to say the least. Apparently I found out Stephen Moffat was offered the Dalek two-parter that ended up becoming Daleks in Manhattan and Evolution of the Daleks, but he had to turn that down because of time commitments, which is how he got Blink.
That would have been if he wrote it. It would have.
Yeah, well, then we wouldn't have done Blink.
I watched that again the other day and I thought, I've watched this thing so much, I'm not going to like it. And I just was blown away by it again.
Yeah, I mean,
Blink I'm talking about.
Blink is one of Moffat's best episodes. You know, it peaked early. Peaked early.
Well, we're getting the Chibnall masterpiece
Angels in
next
Manhattan,
week, so.
I wasn't that keen on, have to say.
That's
coming up this season?
Yeah, I believe so. Well, I mean, many people consider Series 7 to be Moffat's worst season, me included.
Well, based on one episode, me included as well.
Well, I actually found it hard to find an episode I wanted to speak about, because I mustn't like it either. Because I was going through and I was thinking, I don't want to talk about that, I don't want to talk about that, so, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much of it is actually Moffat's fault, because the whole production of the season is just total, complete, and utter disaster. I mean, there are stronger words it can use than that, but suffice to say, this is family friendly. It's a total disaster because they split it into 2 parts, and it's like it's been 8 months since we've had Doctor Who, because it's been 8 months since the Christmas special, and there's a Christmas special in the middle of the season that they like sort of is actually like a regular episode as part of the season, and this whole quote season unquote is just like just a mess in so many different ways.
So you probably heard that they're not doing a Christmas episode this year. I know we're not talking about it,
right?
But have you heard that?
Yeah, it's going to be a New Year's episode instead.
Yes.
And actually, I think it makes sense given like how close the Christmas episode would have aired to the end of the season, because they aired the season so late this year. And
I think it makes sense because they're running out of Christmas stories to tell.
I mean, not if you're Stephen Moffat, you could just rip off other Christmas stories,
or just the name of other Christmas stories, not even the content.
So
like 1 or 2 concepts, but I'm glad though. The fewer Christmas-related things in Doctor Who, the better.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. I always like the Christmas special as a break between the seasons, and I think Moffat's Christmas specials get better as they go on.
There's some I love and some I don't, and one of my favourite episodes is a Christmas episode. But I just think it's nice to mix things up. Let's have something a bit different this year, and they're doing that, so that's good.
Yeah. And it's called Resolution, which I think is clever.
But the most exciting thing about it is she's wearing a scarf. Because did you know I cosplayed as her recently?
I believe you told us.
For some reason, I vaguely remember hearing about it.
Yeah, we've got a thing called PAX down here, which you do in America as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a big 3-day gaming convention. So I went as her, and people were so excited.
Nice.
But yeah, every time I see a new bit of attire that she's wearing, I'm like, I'm going to be using that next year. So yeah, she's got the scarf.
I went to
Which is
San
kinda
Diego
cool.
Comic-Con dressed as Indiana Jones. I almost went as the Fourth Doctor because I knitted a Fourth Doctor scarf, but I
Oh,
didn't
you
have
did
the.
it yourself?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, that's highly impressive.
Was it full length?
Yeah, it's 13 feet long, I
Wow.
think.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It took me about 3 to 4 months. So
Did you have a pattern, or did you
I
just
know I
make
used the official BBC pattern. So
And you know, of course, why that scarf's so long, don't you?
yeah, we
Yeah,
talked about the
everyone's-
story many times
Yeah.
on the podcast. But yeah, anyway,
Well,
production for this. Moffat was like, I want to write a Dalek story, so I'm going to write a Dalek story.
Yeah, no, and surprisingly, he hasn't. He before.
Well,
this,
he wrote a Dalek story. Tick.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I didn't know that, or I didn't realize that he hadn't written one before this. Like when
I
I looked
wonder
back on
why.
it, I was like, I mean, this is what he gave us, so
It's an interesting start too, because it's just like it's a fairy tale told by someone we don't know, to someone we don't know, called Hannah.
Right.
And then we find out it's on the Dalek prison camp, and then just to hammer the point home, it says Skaro. And I was sitting there going, well, those of us who've been watching the show for a
Those
long
of us who
time,
are true fans,
yeah,
according to
all you
Keon.
need to say is Skaro, and we automatically know it's the Daleks. But then that's severely gatekeeping. So it's nice that newer people are sort of brought straight in there.
Well, you can get even more gatekeeping and be like, wasn't Skaro blown up in remembrance of the Daleks with the hand of Omega and that whole nonsense with Davros and the Seventh Doctor? Apparently, there was a reference to this being, and this was like classically Stephen Moffat, but also incredibly stupid, that this was Skaro 2.
So- you don't need to say both of those things.
Good
You can-
grief.
Just kidding.
I'm glad they didn't do that. That sounds a bit silly.
And also in the original plan for the script is that Oswin was going to be a new character, but then,
New companion.
well, in this story, Oswin was going to be completely separate from the later companion going to be introduced this season. But then during the casting, and because this was filmed back to back with Angels Take Manhattan, Moffat realized that he could, because they cut some of the mythos around Oswin and who she was, and like her human form. He realized that he could make her, well, he could have her played by the same actress who plays the later companion this season, Clara. And
Right,
that's
and I read that this.
explained,
I read this.
although
that
I use the
this-
term loosely.
I read that Jenna Coleman, who plays Oswin
Mm-hmm.
in this, and Oswald, I guess, in later stories, was going to go to acting school, but then got this role and like several other roles in prominent movies, and just decided
And
not
soap
to.
operas, yeah.
And decided, well, I already am an actor, so
Exactly.
what's the point? Well,
Yep.
since you've mentioned it, this is good because I wanted to talk about this a little bit. So this may just be me, but I thought that Amelia Pond was a really good character introduction. You know, we got to see her when she was young, and she thought
Back
she'd
in the
gone
11th hour.
insane, and then the doctor comes back. I just loved all of that. I just went, oh, they'll never top this. Now, Amy and Rory, very popular characters. They're about to leave the series. Usually when new characters leave, old characters, beloved, leave and new companions start, people hate the new companions. They just hate them. And I thought this was actually quite
Same with
clever.
the Doctor.
Yeah, but exactly with the Doctor. But yeah, I thought this was quite clever in that they made us sort of really like this person, and then just ripped her out of our lives again. And then when we do lose Amy and Rory later, and that's a big punch in the gut, suddenly we get back a character we actually quite like and we already know. So it's not that we're sort of comparing her and going, oh, she's not as good, this, that, the other. We already have an idea of who she is, and I just think that's really clever.
I think it's really clever to an extent. I think the biggest surprise in this is that at this point they had already announced that Jenna Coleman would be playing the next companion, but they didn't announce obviously when she was going to take over. So it was, as I heard, a huge surprise when people were watching this episode, and then all of a sudden, boop, there's Jenna Coleman, and she's playing Oswin.
Now, I guess I have the luxury of I don't read a lot of stuff before I watch Doctor Who because I don't want to get spoiled. So for me, it was just a real surprise when she turns up again later. But I guess if you knew all about it already, you'd be going, look what they did there.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those moments almost where knowing makes it an even bigger kind of reveal, because then you're wondering, like, Well, at the end of the story,
I mean,
she
that's
gets
what I'm
blown up,
wondering.
and you're like,
how is
well,
this all going to play
like,
out?
the reason why I would be hesitant to say that it's a good introduction is because, and to avoid giving too many details on this one, we actually get Clara later on, because Oswald was written as an entirely separate character, their core character is not identical.
Yeah, I'd agree that when I was watching this again, I thought, oh yeah, she's definitely not Clara in some of the things she says and does. Yeah, so,
but I mean, alas, I still think it's cool. It's unique in many ways, and I think because of that, it works in some aspects.
I mean, I wasn't too attached to her in this. I mean, and by the end, when we get that big reveal at the end, I was just like, yeah, all right, whatever. I mean, that's just me.
You've got a heart of stone. I was crying. I was like, no. But we're jumping way ahead here.
I think that.
So before we get that,
part of this episode.
We get to see. Interestingly enough, we get to see Amy doing what Karen Gillan did before Doctor Who, which is she did some modelling.
Yeah.
And I said to Stu, Karen Gillan used to be a model, and he said, well, you can see that she's tall, thin, and good looking. I thought, well, okay, that pretty much wraps that up there.
All right, pack it in, boys.
I thought, how is he able to just go, well, she's this, and this, tick, tick, tick. All right, let's just move on. I'm like, okay, all right, let's, yeah.
Well, there's
he's a man of few words, Stu. Put it that way. Mostly because I am a woman of many words, so you got to have a bit of.
You got to have a little bit of balance.
And Amy and Rory are being nasty to each other, and I don't like it. I did not like it.
I don't really like. I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who's like, yeah, that's a good creative choice.
Well, there's both a prologue to this episode, which is like a 2-minute thing that isn't totally necessary, but is nice, I guess. But there's also Pond Life, which is very mini series, like 1-minute episodes released online leading up to.
I think it was written by Chris Chibnall.
Yeah, well, it was leading up to this episode, which sort of
details the pond's
like
life
in a very loose way. It's.
I know you sent it to me, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah, it's described as setting up this divorce between Amy and Rory, but it doesn't really.
Because it really does come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it does, like, the final minute of it, so the final episode of this 5-episode thing does, but, like, the other 4 are just, like, them having humorous encounters with the Doctor. And interestingly enough, there's a poster in Amy and Rory's house that says Argyle on it, but it's cut off on the edge of the screen in such a way that it reads RG. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Oh, yeah, referencing me, obviously.
Yeah.
More evidence that Doctor Who is just made based on the podcasts that we release, and people go back in time to make Doctor Who based on our podcasts.
There's a store called Argos or Argos, I'm not quite sure how it's said, but it used to be really popular in Britain, and before my name got shortened to Argy, it was actually Argo, because that's the name of Xena's horse. Terribly long, convoluted explanation, I know, but I was able to have my picture taken outside an Argos and send it back to my friends and say, yeah, this belongs to me. They're all over me in Britain.
Did you ever try walking in and be like, well, my name's Argo?
No, I didn't do that. Maybe I should have. But yeah, Stu had a comment on this. He said, this is a quote, the Rory and Amy divorce and getting back together didn't do much for me. So, yeah, Stu's not on board with that.
Man, not many words there. I see what you're saying.
He just felt like, what was it all for, really?
Well, it gets resolved.
I guess we do get that thing later where they're all talking about who's in love the most with the other one. But, yeah, he thought it was a bit forced.
Yeah, as did I, especially with the resolution at the end of this episode. I thought this was definitely going to be an overarching thing for these first 5 episodes that make up, part 1 of this season. But it wasn't.
Yeah, I did too, actually. Yeah, I was the same.
Yeah, they resolve it very quickly, and one is left wondering, like, well, why? Right? I mean, what else can you say except, like, why?
Well, I mean, it does do 2 things. One thing is it gives them a chance to talk about the fact that Amy can't have children. And
Yeah, I mean, that's another
Rory will
thing that's
stay with
like,
her.
why, right?
But I don't know if you guys are in a couple, but I'm in a relationship. I've been married for 30 years, and we decided not to have children very early on. And the grief you get from not having children is quite palpable. But it's a big conversation to have, because a lot of people see it as a progression. You get married, then you buy a house, and you have children, all that kind of thing. So I can actually appreciate that two people might have that conversation. I can't have children. Is that okay with you? It actually does carry a lot of resonance.
Yeah, but I mean, on the flip side of the coin, Rory is like, Rory doesn't get a chance to like defend himself in this episode. Amy just kind of shouts at him. She's like, "You've always wanted kids," and then Rory doesn't really defend himself. Nobody points out the fact that they've already got a kid, question mark.
Oh, yeah, I know, but that's all a bit, how's your father, isn't it? Or in this case, who's your father?
But then there's also that, like, I don't know, just slap in the face where Rory's like, well, it's obvious that I've always loved you, and that whole nonsense, but we'll get there.
Yeah, Stu didn't like that either. Stu was not on board with that.
Yeah.
I think it's... Okay, so getting back to the episode, there's only one person on the bus with Rory, and that is its driver. I wonder who the Dalek will be. Is it going to be Rory or the driver?
Get the plot twisted to Rory. He gets turned into an Auton first, and then a Dalek later. Poor dude.
I mean, there's precedent for it with Amy being flesh. So
yeah, kind of felt like they were going to reuse that plot line in this episode too, when Amy starts getting turned. I'm like,
oh yeah,
we've seen this before in Moffat.
Yeah, Moffat does recycle some stuff here. There's no doubt about that. So Doctor says, get ready, because something's going to be 11 out of 10. Stu said biggest cliche in the book.
Not only that, it's the 11th
Guess
Doctor.
They cranked the cheese factor up to 11.
I didn't pick that up. Now, I want to know how Daleks have a parliament when it's been said in the past that they don't follow a leader. Because Davros has tried to establish himself. Yeah, I know. Because Davros wanted to be their leader, and they kind of went, we don't have leaders. And it was like, okay, well, that puts that...
I mean, this is definitely another, like, sect, right? And you got to question, is this even Skaro, or are these just, like, the wannabe Skaro Daleks who are like, yeah, we have a parliament, and this is totally Skaro? And
I mean, the Doctor's the one who calls it Skaro, not the Daleks, so I'm going to go with the Doctor on this one. Again, though, you have to wonder, did Skaro just not get blown up in Revelation, or what's going on here? Like, the Doctor remembers he used the hand of Omega, right? Omega.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with my theory that these are just the chucklehead wannabe Skaro Daleks who kind of suck.
See, I think I like that better. They should have gone with that.
I mean, didn't they do that? They did that several times with the Cybermen, right? Like, we want to be the Mondas Cybermen.
I mean, they did it with the Daleks, too, in freaking Revelation of the Daleks, where there's the one cult led by Davros, and the other Daleks like, you're not pure You're not pure Daleks. And Davros is like, I'm literally Davros.
That was done so confusingly, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was. Because, like, Davros didn't show up till episode 3 because he was inside that, like, Emperor Dalek casing, and then it's like, oh, it's actually Davros, but then it's like, but who was that girl, and what's going on, and why do I care? There is actually...
Is this Doctor you're talking about now?
The Seventh Doctor one.
Yeah.
I think that was Revelation.
Okay.
It was the only Seventh Doctor Dalek story, I think.
Yeah, I'm, like, pretty confident that was Revelation. Although it may... Actually, no, sorry, that was Remembrance. I got them backwards. Revelation was the Sixth Doctor one. You're right, RG. Revelation was the Sixth Doctor, the two-parter. Remembrance is the one I'm talking about, the Seventh Doctor one. Anyway, yeah.
Remember the Daleks.
There is actually a special weapons Dalek from that story in this episode, just in the background, chilling. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but I picked up on it. It's when they get down onto the Asylum planet, there's just a special weapons Dalek chilling in the background.
Nice.
Interesting. And the Daleks are all saying, save the Daleks. So the Doctor says, this is new. And I think, yeah, it's new for us as an audience too. I don't remember them asking him that before.
Yeah. And Moffat reuses this plot line a couple more times, but...
Well, the Doctor's enemies have always sort of enlisted him, like the Time Lords have done multiple times.
Yeah, but never the Daleks.
Those are the Daleks, but...
We go into the opening sequence. I actually like
so there's a new title sequence.
Doctors. Yes. I like the 13th Doctor's graphics better than these ones.
Yeah,
Stu
do I.
agrees.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
of course, you won't see that until quite some time. But I'm just throwing it out there. I think the 13th Doctor is actually quite good.
This is my least favorite title sequence because I think it just tries to do too much. It's like oversaturated first, so that it's kind of similar to the previous one. They've oversaturated it though, so it's like really bright green at the beginning, except you could tell it's just a filter because the TARDIS also looks kind of green.
Yeah.
And then they changed the font for all the actresses' credits, and then they have the Doctor Who logo. It changes depending on the episode until they get to the snowman where they're like, that's too much work. So in this episode, it's got like Dalek bumps all over it.
They kind of do the cartoon thing, right? Like Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, and other cartoons of that nature have a different... There's a little Easter egg usually in the opening sequence that's different in every episode. So I didn't mind
Have
this.
you looked at which opening sequences people think are the best and which they think are the worst?
No, and I actually
at
just
genre?
realized I take that back. The opening sequence that follows this one is my least favorite. I just remembered that one.
It's generally held that Sylvester McCoy is generally held to be the worst one.
But how can you how can you hate that CG TARDIS, that late 80s CG TARDIS?
They really hate the winking thing. They just hate that. And it's generally thought that Peter Capaldi's are the best. And they were actually originally made by a fan online. And then
Yeah, I was going
adopted
to say
by
maybe that's why
BBC.
Peter Capaldi's are the best, is because they were a fan designer and Moffat saw it and was like, that's cool, I want it on the show.
Yeah. But, I mean, the new ones aren't anything like any of that. They're, I won't say anything about them, but...
I mean, they're very,
I like the 13th.
the 13th Doctor.
because it's a
ones.
callback to the first Doctor.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They're very reminiscent of the first,
Yeah.
second Doctor.
Yeah, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
I don't think it's a bad thing
I
at
think
all.
it's the opposite of a bad thing.
When are we going to get a title sequence that references the fourth Doctors with that prism
Hopefully
tunnel? What do you mean never? That title sequence was great. Prism tunnel.
That is burnt into my eyes, right? Because I was fourth Doctor gal, and every time I look at that, there's a little thing that pops up. There's a little shape, and it's on the left-hand side up the top, and it looks like a sneaker. So next time you watch it,
Now I'm never going to be able to unsee it.
Yeah. So if you ever see that again, look for the sneaker. So Stu sees Oswin in a short red skirt, and he said to me, "Hello."
Words.
But it was quite obvious. Hello. So I think I might have to order a short red skirt in future. It seems like.
It's. I don't think it's the shortest outfit that Clara wears on this show. Is it?
No, definitely not.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure she wears at least one outfit that's shorter than that.
The question is, does she ever wear a skirt? Oh no, she does wear ones that are longer. Yep, when she's
Yeah, she does.
Throwback to-
like when they all do when they go back in time. But, yeah.
Throwback to Perry, who was just like never
don't think
wearing
it's
anything.
Throwback to Perry, who was introduced in a bikini.
See-through
Yes.
bikini.
Yes, Perry's lack of clothing has become stuff of legend.
Now, what does your husband have to say on that matter?
Well, interestingly enough, he has not watched any Sixth, and I own all the DVDs.
Uh-oh.
Just waiting for a break in all our other shows to start them. And unfortunately, we keep buying other shows, so yeah. We'll get there.
You gotta
I want
at
to show
least
him
get
those,
that.
and then I want to show him The Stranger. I don't know if you've watched any of those.
I've read the book multiple times. The Stranger is in the one by Camus, right? Or am I thinking?
I don't know about the book, but
okay.
there was a series of DVDs or videos at the time made called The Stranger instead of The Doctor, and it had all the doctors in it.
Suspicious.
I was thinking of the...
Yes.
Never mind. I was thinking of something
So
completely
it was
different.
deliberately made to cash in on it, and because Sixth Doctor, had a humongous break, it also let them sort of keep making Doctor Who's. They're nowhere near as good as Doctor Who.
Yeah, I imagine.
There's one with 4 of the Doctors in. It's actually not too bad, to be honest. I don't remember the name, but you'd have to look it up online. But yeah, I didn't mind this. So we get introduced to this unknown woman in the red skirt that made Stu say hello, and I actually didn't mind her. I thought she was smart and plucky. So I didn't mind her, but I gather that you both didn't think she was that great.
I mean, I like this incarnation or this version of Oswald
Better than what we get
better
later.
than the Clara we get.
Wow.
She's very polarizing. She's, a lot of people hate her. A lot of people love
as a
her.
companion, I do like Clara, actually. I actually enjoy the plotline Moffat has going on in Series 9 that a lot of people really seem to hate. And I really like it for a lot of reasons that we'll explain when we get there, having personally been involved in a relationship very similar.
Well, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think Clara Oswald also represents a return to the Doctor and one female companion that was basically the norm for most of the show's history. But I think, based on what I've seen just from fans and stuff, that's not a format that people think is the best format to go with. I think people like the
weird
multiple...
since people love Rose. So
Yeah. Well, Rose had just
people
worked.
are fickle, though. But I think that's what it is. I think they liked Rose and Tennant. So anyone else is going to come along and try and do that. They're going to say, well, it's not as good.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mind Clara. She often tops lists of worst companion ever. But I think we all need to realise that, without a doubt, the worst companion ever was the robot. Oh, what was it called? His name? Yes.
What do you have against Chameleon? You're just going to buy the Nathan Bottomley's theory that one character in every Chameleon story is Chameleon. Prove him wrong.
I mean, he didn't work, and he really had no personality. The other one that gets up the top is the redhead young woman
Mel.
who was in... Yes, Mel. Sure.
What do people have against
I really
Mel?
liked Mel.
Well, see, I didn't mind Mel either.
Yeah, I feel like Adric should be at the top of this list. Come on, fans.
But see, it's weird, isn't it? Because I absolutely love Adric. But it's probably because I was younger at the time and I had the most hugest crush on him. So,
We were cheering.
Matthew Waterhouse is not attracted to women, so I'm sorry to burst your bubble there.
Oh, I had no, I wasn't
at least from my understanding of what Flight Through Entirety was saying about his autobiography and things he said. That's my understanding. I could be completely wrong.
Oh, good luck to him. As long as he's happy.
But we were cheering when Adric died.
We were literally cheering.
Okay, so you were cheering. I was in complete shock. I just sat there looking at the screen. So it was like the end of Blake 7. I was just looking at the screen going, but what?
But he'll never know if he was right.
I know, and that was really sad, I thought. But, again, I think it's a timing.
I mean, it's his own damn fault.
It was his damn fault for not getting the maths right in time.
It's his own damn fault for just not leaving the ship. I mean, it was going to crash anyway.
Oh, yeah. He could have hopped off. That's right.
Well, anyway, back to the story at hand.
So I quite liked the Dalek saying, I read my file. I thought it was quite funny.
Yeah, because the Doctor's wondering if this Dalek puppet, so to speak, knows that, the body that it's inhabiting had a kid. And it's like, yeah, I read my file. And the Doctor's like, oh, all right. So basically the setup here is that the Daleks, for some bizarre reason, have an asylum planet. And the Doctor kind of points this out. He's like, well, why wouldn't you just, kill the defective Daleks?
Well, they give this reason, and it's kind of sketchy. It's that they respect and admire, hatred, which they find, to be the purest
form
insanity.
Of
beauty.
Yeah.
And they're like, maybe that's why we could never kill you, Doctor. He just kind of brushes this off.
Just he got me.
The Doctor's like, maybe you should be in the asylum, Prime Minister.
Well, in the just to go back a little bit, in the establishing scene with Oswin, we get the information, and it's done pretty well actually, that she's keeping some Daleks out of the sort of bunker that she's in.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she sort of just boarded up the door.
And she keeps making souffles and burning them.
Yeah.
And she's listening to classical music too, which gets referenced.
This is a production information note that you just reminded me of. Apparently,
this is really dumb. This is real dumb.
In the original draft of this, before Oswin became an Oswald, they were going to use Elvis music. And her nickname wasn't going to be Souffle Girl, it was going to be Blue Suede Shoes Girl because of the Elvis music, but then they couldn't get the rights to the Elvis music, so...
Remember the DJ in Revelation of the Daleks?
Yes, I actually was reading about that while looking up stuff about this story. But anyway, then it was actually Nick, I still don't know how to pronounce his last name, Haran.
It's probably Haran.
Who suggested they use Carmen, the opera, as the music.
They're very effective because it's very distinctive.
Right. The Doctor claims he's playing the triangle.
Yeah, I thought that was quite cute.
One wonders
actually.
which incarnation it would be. I kind of find it humorous to imagine it's the Sixth Doctor being overly boisterous on the triangle.
Well, second Doctor
That
was
would be
always
my dream.
the most
He's
musical.
my second favourite Doctor, so I would love that. Okay, so the Daleks say, "Can you help us?" And instead of saying no, the Doctor says, "I thought you'd run out of ways to make me sick." And Stu just burst out with laughter at that. I thought that was hilarious.
Well, he doesn't really have a choice because they just kind of shove him into a gravity beam that just launches him at the planet.
Well, just before they do that, Rory says, "What colour?" about the Daleks. And I actually took that as a bit of a dig at how silly having multicoloured Daleks was in the first place.
They're in this episode.
Yeah, but not as many. Like, there were red ones in there. I didn't catch, like, blue and yellow.
There's a
all that.
white one in the Parliament of the Daleks scene.
Right.
Well, I didn't know
But
until
not as many as that first
Yeah.
stuck them in.
Victory of
And
the Daleks.
I'm going to go on a little diatribe. Coloured Daleks felt wrong to me due to the fact that, one, Daleks wouldn't see the point of colour. Two, it felt a bit like a marketing gimmick. Three, they didn't
was.
look very intimidating. And four, this is from Stu, it felt like the Daleks were being anthropomorphized. So if people don't know what that means, I know you two will,
that's
but
fair.
it's that they're trying to be made human.
I mean,
So
it's
he
not
might
the
be about
first
a few
time they
words.
coloured Daleks. I mean, there was those bitchin' gold and white ones in remembrance of the Daleks.
Day of the Daleks had an A black one, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, but see, you're allowed to do silver and gold and black and all that because that's kind of metallic and neutral. But when you suddenly see blue,
Pastel.
green,
I still
yellow,
don't know what the
Crayola Daleks.
freaking scientist Dalek is for, but anyway.
yeah,
When's
it's
the
a bit
eternal
sort of
Dalek coming
overloaded.
back?
The eternal Dalek. What Moffat? What?
I still
Were
like
you
the new
smoking the
paradigm.
dope?
He's a very creative man,
Roll.
apparently.
Troll one. Well, so I didn't
And we
know
hear the early
this.
classical music then.
Well, I didn't know this. Just one more note on the new paradigm Daleks is that specifically for this inclusion in the story, they redesigned them again to try assuage some of the complaints people had about the new paradigm Daleks. So they removed the hump at the back. They scaled them down a bit. But you could still tell they're different. But
I didn't even realize that those complaints were internal as well because the controllers actually I
the
found
people
out
in the Dalek suits.
had problems controlling the new paradigm or moving around inside the new paradigm cases, which I didn't know. So that sort of makes it more okay to me that they sort of ditched that idea.
and this is a very prescient conversation we're having because another redesign of the Daleks is set to
Oh, don't spoil anything.
premiere at some point in the
Ruh-roh.
Chibnall era. Chibnall has indicated that he's redesigned the Daleks and that there has
Okay.
been a redesign for the Daleks that's set to appear at some point in the Chibnall era. So,
Oh, that's interesting because he said he wasn't going to put him in at all, but then he did say that.
well, he
for the
did. He
series,
said that
to be
specifically for the first season, but he did say at
Yeah.
some point, we've redesigned the Daleks. So, and of course,
Presumably they're not going to not use that
yeah, the
redesign.
BBC is full of leaks. Someone like one of the production designers was like, "Yeah, we redesigned we redesigned the Daleks." So
I feel like people who leak things at the BBC don't even face any consequences for it.
well, like there was somebody
Quote
leaked.
unquote leak.
Somebody
Like people
leaked
just say things.
Jodie's first minute or so as the Doctor, and the BBC went on this huge legal
Crusade.
crusade to find out who did it, and it was this huge thing. And I was listening to 42 to Doomsday the other day, and they were like, why does the BBC actually care so much? The best thing to happen to the reboot was when somebody leaked Rose a week early because it generated so much publicity trying to find out who the leaker was and why it was leaked.
Well, and leaked the leather jacket, the Ninth Doctor's leather jacket, that people were sure was not his actual costume.
Have you heard the? So we're talking about Daleks. Have you heard the Colin Baker story? One night he was alone on the set, and he was just going back to his room to get a coat. They'd had a party in the BBC lounge, so he went, "Okay, I'm going to go back and get my coat." And there was a Dalek on set getting ready for what was going to happen the next day. And he stopped and he had a look at it. And he thought, you don't often get to have a look at these things while you're filming. And while he was looking at it, the eye stalk raised up and looked at him. And and he didn't realise that one of the actors was actually in it and just practicing with it for the next day. He said he almost, killed over from fear. He's never been so afraid. I found that amusing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what happens when you wander through the BBC department late at night, Colin.
So we're hearing classical music that we heard before.
Right.
And the girl who's listening to it mentions that she's making souffles.
Well, they give this extremely, sorry for interrupting, they give this extremely vague explanation for why the Doctor has to go down there.
It's not vague.
Oh, yeah.
It's just...
It falls apart.
No, I mean...
Well, so the thing is, the reason why it falls apart is because, they have these nanogenes on the planet, so, why... Yes. They're worried that because the ship crashed, because the thing is, the Alaska crashed on the planet, and they're getting these transmissions, so the Daleks believe that if something can get in through the force field, something can get out.
Right, because they put a force field around their entire Asylum planet.
But
yes,
if they believe the force field, this whole explanation falls apart really quickly, because you kind of have to wonder why the nanogenes exist.
I don't think they knew that the ship had crashed. I think they just said there's something coming in from inside and it's not a signal that we recognize.
No, the whole thing, the doctor explicitly states this. He's like, you guys are scared that because the ship got in that something can get out, and that's why you want me to go in, destroy the force field so you can blow up the whole planet.
I don't remember.
He straight up says that unequivocally, there's no room for interpretation.
But that's him saying it, not them.
I just don't... Yeah.
What they should have said to him, we don't want you to go down there. We can't tell you why, but just please don't go down there. That would have been enough.
I mean, I don't know. It's just a thin explanation, especially with the nanogenes, because then you wonder, why are you worried about things crashing on the planet, getting in through the force field? Clearly you anticipated this result, that something was going to get in, right? That's why you put the nanogenes there. Whatever.
Yeah, you're right, because if they didn't, the nanogenes are just to turn everyone into Daleks, so you're right.
They slap these bracelets on them.
Just a precautionary thing, I guess. I mean, it worked for me. This is the setup of this I actually liked. It's once it starts rolling that I, lost interest.
There's an interesting line here where the Doctor's like, well, why did you bring Amy and Rory? And the Daleks are like, historical records indicate that the Doctor requires companions. And I was like, that's an interesting way to say that. I don't know what it's saying about the Doctor, but...
Just that they've encountered him with
Rory's
companions
killing
more
it
often
this
than
episode. Because someone says, the Doctor says, oh, I don't do blah, blah, blah. And he goes, well, that is sort of your MO.
Rory is just in full-on, doesn't care mode.
Rory throws shade at the Doctor more than he doesn't.
No, I'm sorry. This is cool Rory. This episode, I have to say. His hair's longer and sexier, and he's got a great little striped T-shirt and really cool jacket, and I just think it's awesome.
Well, there was this other thing that got cut in the production stages where they were going to visually show Amy and Rory's divorce by having Rory have a beard in this story, because Amy hates facial hair, so he was going to have a beard, and then at the resolution of the story he was going to shave it off to represent them getting back together. But because this was filmed back to back with Angels Take Manhattan, they were like, the filming, it's not really gonna work out. The thing was that Arthur Darvill had acted in, I think, a stage production just before the filming of the season where he had a beard, and that's how Moffat came up with the idea. He was just going to have him keep the beard.
Didn't he play Mephistopheles in Faust, the play?
I think so, yeah.
God.
Oh, really? That's a very heavy part.
And, but they ended up just having him shave the beard off before they started filming because of just the filming schedule, and they didn't think they thought it was kind of cheesy as well.
Based on Matt Smith growing out his quote-unquote beard.
So Amy's obviously missed having adventures with the Doctor because she says, who's scared? Geronimo. She's ready for it.
Yeah, Amy in this episode is kind of grating.
Yeah, there's a little mini flashback, and there's no dialogue in it, but it's Amy running out of the house that the Doctor gave them, and this is supposed to be their divorce or whatever. And in this scene, I guess it's she's going to be modeling or whatever, but she's wearing very heavy makeup and a black jacket, and I was like, is Amy going for the goth look? Is that why they're getting divorced?
Amy's a goth now.
Rory didn't want to get a mohawk or whatever, or adopt the punk look or anything. But no, that's a much stupider reason than that.
Yikes.
Stu had a comment when they hit the planet. He said the thing popping up out of the snow is very Star Wars-ish.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Very Empire.
Yeah, because when they go down to the planet and they get separated, and Amy encounters this guy who is part of the crew of the Alaska. Looks like they're in Alaska too, but no, they're not. And this is done so strangely, like this, because I don't know. Let me know if you guys agree with this, but I thought that nobody could see this guy for his entire like presence on screen until they get down into the part of the ship. And it was obvious that they could, but like, it's just watch this with that idea in mind, and it's like, I don't know, it just falls into place that he's like invisible and they can't hear him, because it's like nobody's really reacting to what he says until they get down into the ship. That's what I thought.
Interesting.
Huh. I didn't get
like
that
the
vibe
dialogue
at all.
does not flow with him, and it flows actually without him better than it does with his input.
I'll have to go back and rewatch it because I didn't really get that when I was watching it.
He's really necessary though, because we have to have that line about alive or dead.
With the nanogenes.
Yeah. I got that before they did. I was like, well, you're surrounded by dead people. Hello.
Well, you got it before the doctor did. Amy picks up on it as soon as the doctor says dead or alive, and Amy's like, wait, you mean dead, alive or dead? Yeah, I was like, yeah, alive or dead. And she's like, doctor, alive or dead? And he's like, Rory's, I guess, gravity cannon has been amped up to like 11 because he gets shot like straight into the core in the Earth. Not the Earth, the planet. Poor dude.
Stu said, why would Rory have a flashlight in his pocket? I know, I always carry one.
Well, you know, it's cool, Rory.
Yeah, it is. It's cool, Rory, this episode. He does some pretty cool things. Now, I don't think you two were very fond of Oswin, but from my perspective, I slowly fell in love with her in this episode because she held out against the Daleks on her own. She learned how to hack their stuff to use against them. So she really appealed to me as a character.
I mean, she's a strong character, I think. I think if this was the version of Clara we got later on, a lot more people would like Clara, I think, is where I'm going to go with that statement. I mean, I do like her. Like, I do like her as a character in this story. You know, beyond the story, I'm not sure. Because, I mean, her role in the story is basically for the big reveal. You're a Dalek, Oswin. Yeah. You're a Dalek, right?
You're a Dalek, Oswin.
Yeah, the whole story is actually led up to that, I think. Basically the story's about what happens if you come across someone who doesn't know they're a Dalek and they're a Dalek.
Yeah. I mean, her whole character...
There are visual hints to it as well, with her looking out the view screen and it's the shape of an eye stalk.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the fact that the doctor, the instant he points it out at the beginning, he's like, where do you get the milk for the souffles?
Well, it's played as a joke like twice, and then at the end it's like, oh, shoot, where's the milk coming from?
Well, let me ask you this, because when I was watching this, I was thinking of Dylan, and I thought, is Dylan going to say, wait a second, when does the Doctor actually know that she's a Dalek? Does he know right away? But he just keeps using her? I
actually think he picks up on it when she says she hacks into the... She hacks into the systems, because the Doctor's like, well, that's impossible. Like, nobody can hack into the Dalek system. Which she then reinforces later. She's like, I hacked into the Dalek's hive mind. And the Doctor's like, that's actually impossible. I've even tried to do that, and I couldn't do that.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's when he picks up that... I think that's when he solidifies it, but I think he suspects that she's not a human anymore, especially with the nanogenes, because he brings up the nanogenes. He's like, oh, it's insulated in here. And the Doctor's like, Like, the Doctor doesn't seem like he buys it.
But if you're going with Keon's idea that, you know, what happens if you watched it and that guy was invisible, if you watch this and you think, what if the Doctor knew straight from the start, then he falls into that dark area where he's just, he knows that she's due to be devastated when she finds out, but he doesn't want to tell her because he wants to keep getting her help.
Yeah, and I mean...
So he sort of uses the crap out of her.
I mean, there's definitely a point where he, as he's walking into that the part of the compound that she's in, he definitely knows.
I mean, I think he actually, because they get to this teleport, not a lot happens between them and the ship and the teleport, except Amy loses her nanogene bracelet. But they make it to this teleport where they meet up with Rory as well.
Right?
hang on. There is one awesome thing. They pull off a skeleton's wrist getting into the elevator, to which Stu and I both went, "Oh, yuck!" At the same time, we were like, "That is so gross."
I mean,
there are a couple other sort of scenes. The one with Rory and the eggs, and it sounds like the Daleks are saying eggs. And he's like, "Are these your eggs?"
And they're like, "Exterminate!" And he's like, "Oh."
It is kind of funny watching him pick up one of their little, I'm never even sure what these things are called, but the
Baubles.
little Dalek balls, and saying, "Do you want this?" Yeah, it's like working with a puppy. Is this what you want? No, not this one.
No,
I'm going to say something else too. So Doctor says to Oswin, "How'd you get all down here?" And she says, "Oh, long story." Okay, listeners, remember that. Remember, it's a long story, because you will come across that again in future.
Yeah. There are a couple lines she says that, knowing her entire arc, there are a couple lines she says where I'm like, I wonder how much of this Moffat actually had planned out when he wrote this episode. But
in particular, long story is something that gets said repeatedly in the future.
Right.
In one instance. So just keep that in mind.
But they get to the teleport, and the point I was going to make is that the Doctor actually seems like he's testing whether or not Oswin is human or not at this point when he tells her, "Oh, just come down to the teleport." Which, at first glance, you're like, well, she can't, because she's going to get killed by all the other Daleks, right? If she just tries to make her way to the teleport, she's going to get killed by all the other Daleks. And Oswin's like, "No, you come get me." And I was thinking when I watched it, I was like, well, she would just get killed by the Daleks. Like, why does the Doctor even say that? And I think it's actually because he's testing to see, whether or not Oswin is aware of the fact that she can just drive through as a Dalek. It's just well, here we are.
Yeah, but even if her situation was that she was actually trapped, she wouldn't be able to, so.
Yeah, I mean, but if she was actually trapped, you have to wonder why the Doctor would even just be like, well, why don't you just come down to the teleport?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
To me, it just feels like he's testing her. He's testing out his theory in a kind of a bleak way.
In a dumb way.
Well, this really ties into it if you think he's known all this time.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely think he picks up on it well before he tells Oswin. I think maybe he wasn't certain, fully sure about it till he opens the door. Sure. But I think he at least suspected and was confident in his theory that she wasn't a human well before they get there.
Yeah, I think it's probably that he's getting more and more information all the time. So the more information he gets, the stronger his suspicion is that she is no longer human.
The Doctor does manipulate Amy and Rory into fixing their marriage, though.
Well, actually, before that, though, he's faced with a problem he can't fix, which is their relationship. Well, he thinks
allegedly.
He can't fix it.
Well, Amy tells him. Amy's the one who's like, "You can't fix that, Doctor," and he's like, "Watch me." Although he doesn't say that, but you can see it in his face. He's like, "Watch me."
Well, actually, I have a different take. So he's faced with this problem, and he actually says, "What can I do?" Instead of, "Oh, just do this and it'll all be fine." And I actually thought it was quite a moving moment, because we don't actually hear him ask that very much of people. What do you want me to do for you? Or what can I do? It's usually he's the one marching around, coming up with ideas of fixing things and explaining things, and for once he's actually asking someone, "What can I do?" I thought, it really touched me.
That's interesting. I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah, I didn't even pick up on that, but it's immediately thrown out the window because he just does whatever the hell he wants
everything.
anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Because they get to the teleporter room, and Amy's been affected by the nanogenes because she loses her bracelet to the skeleton Daleks, and Rory's just like, "Look, take my bracelet, because we all know that I love you more than you love me, and the Daleks are subtracting love, so it'll take longer to subtract the love out of me. It'll buy us more time."
Sorry, I'm going to take us back a bit, because there's a whole lot of stuff besides Rory looking cuter by getting a hoodie, amazing hooded jacket and striped T-shirt. They let him have a little bit of a solo part of this adventure, which I think is also terribly cool. And when he was pushing the Dalek stalk around, Stu said, "I don't think I'd be pushing that thing in front of my face." And he also does a bit of a 007, because he slides under the door that's opened for him by Clara. So, he's got a little bit of stuff
that scene
to
was
do
kind of
with this,
silly,
right?
but...
And there are hints that Oswin's bisexual. So that becomes a bit of a regular thing in Doctor Who from now on. I personally find it a bit more tacky than just having an openly bisexual character like the 100 has.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of this happens from now on.
Yeah, I mean, Oswin indicates that she's bisexual. Unless she's just lying through her teeth. Because she says, like, the first boy I fancied was named Rory. And then she's like, no, she wasn't. She was named Nina. I was
Nina.
going through a bit of a phase. Which I thought was, like, a little bit weird because it seemed to indicate that, like, her bisexuality was, like, a phase. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, but it's...
I think that's the part that I object
along.
to really, that it's like, oh, she's had an affair with a girl. Isn't that funny? I just felt a bit like, oh, look, either make her bisexual or make her not. But don't just go, oh, it's hilarious that, you know, a girl would like another girl. Ha, ha, ha. Aren't we very grown up and hilarious? I didn't take
It's like
to
that
it.
time Amy flirted with that other version of Amy on this mini episode we didn't watch. Stephen Moffat was like, he described it as a hot redhead flirting with herself. What more could you want? And that's a quote that people always point to when they're like, Stephen Moffat is a misogynist. Or
Right.
suppressing misogynistic feelings.
Yeah, I guess you could read it that way, eh? I do think I like the subtle bit where Doctor sort of tells Amy her conversion's begun because she's asked him the same question 4 times. I thought that was actually quite well written.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it makes you wonder how long that ladder they climbed was that she got through that whole conversation 4 times. But
Also like it when Rory says to Oswin, I'd prefer Nina, because she calls him some other name. And she says, take your shirt off. And he goes, why? And she goes, does there have to be a reason? Made Stu laugh out loud. Stu loves that bit of comedy.
Well, I'm glad at least someone out there got enjoyment from any of these middle scenes.
In my defence, Stu's actually a very intelligent man, but this is not making him sound very intelligent at all. Oh, dear.
I love how Keon's the stone-hearted one in this one. In Blake, he was like, man, Tarrant totally redeemed himself in my eyes. And Jim was like, Dylan, you're so cold-hearted, because I was like, Tarrant didn't redeem himself at all.
Oh, poor Tarrant. I love him so much. But then, I love so many inappropriate things like the Sixth Doctor. Okay, so Amy sees the Daleks as people outside the window, so we know things are going south for her.
Yeah.
And immediately the Doctor does the old, let's hide in a doorway, Doctor Who and Blake 7 trick, because no one ever looks in a doorway as they walk past.
I mean, it's a throwback to that Dalek way back in
the Daleks.
The Dalek. Who literally rolls past the Doctor and companion standing to the side of the doorway and ignores them. And then that's
done again in Daleks, Dalek Invasion of Earth.
Yeah, Dalek Invasion of Earth, where the freaking Dalek eye stalk looks straight at them when it rolls through the doorway. And it's like, what?
Yeah, there's always that one Dalek who's just like, you know what? Do it, guys.
The one Dalek is like, you know what? I don't care. I know you're standing over there, but it just...
Not even worth it.
It's not even worth it.
Like I'm telling you, it's an old favourite. Stand in the doorway, no one sees you. So try that next time. Yeah, someone's chasing you. Just stand in the doorway. They'll run right past. I thought the Doctor putting the Dalek in reverse was genius.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty funny.
The Dalek's like, forward.
Got me to pay attention for like 2 seconds during all of this. I really just.
What
I mean,
time
it's
did you watch
like,
this?
Like 1 at night, but I usually watch them at that time. But like, I was so uninterested in everything that was going on. And then the part that really got me more interested was like, all right, now we're going to find out why Amy and Rory are getting this divorce. And then I sort of tuned in more for that scene, and it was just the dumbest thing in the world.
So let down.
This is the scene where Rory's like, I love you more than you love me. And he brings up the fact that he waited 2,000 years for Amy. And I was like, you know what? That I brought up that same point on the podcast before. Rory.
Amy didn't even get the... All right, whatever. We're not even going to go into that, but like...
I had stuff back before that. So I had... there was a Scottish joke. Oswin says, oh, she's very angry. And Amy's like, well, somebody's never been to Scotland. So I'm of Scottish heritage, and I laughed out loud at that. And then straight away I thought, it's funny, but it's also actually quite racist when you think about it. Like, all Scottish people are angry. That's all they are.
Yeah, it's a little diminutive.
Yeah. And the Doctor asks again where to get milk for the souffles, so that's coming up more and more.
Yeah, I forgot you needed milk and souffles. My knowledge of the Great British Bake Off is failing me.
It's a good show.
Well, now you know you need milk and eggs, so you're halfway there. Interesting too, Oswald says to, I can't remember if it's the Doctor or Rory, but she says to one of them, "Come up and see me sometime," which is actually a very famous song by Mae West.
Must not be that famous because I've never heard of it.
I'm gonna give you something so you can link it, because there's a YouTube song of her, clip of her singing it.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes.
The Doctor says "explodey wodey." I'm a bit over that, I have to say, all the timey-wimey explodey wodey stuff.
Explodey wodey, humany woomany. Moffat's really dialing it up to 11 with that.
I mean, I do love it that they make fun of that. I don't know, has the 50th anniversary episode shown by now, or is it still to come?
Still to come.
Oh yes, it is. I've just remembered the characters in it. So yeah, they address that a bit later on.
But
so this bit where Rory says "I love you more than you love me," this was Stu's take on this, right? This is probably the most words he used the entire time.
Okay, here we go.
He said, "The problem is he's thought that all along because he doesn't realise that she loves him. You can tell by the way she looks at him." And I just thought that was so gorgeous that he said that.
I mean, here's my problem with this, is that Rory has no reason not to believe this. When he's introduced to the TARDIS, Amy, it's because the Doctor's like, "Your fiance literally just tried to kiss me, Rory. Like, not okay." And then, like, Amy spends like a substantial amount of time in their first season together, like fawning over the Doctor when Rory's like literally right there, right? And then he waits, and then he's still at the end of that season, after all of that, after Amy's choice, where like she clearly doesn't know that the reality with Rory is like the one she wants to be in. Like there's still like a lot of doubt in her mind. At the end of all of that, he still waits 2,000 years to make sure she's okay. Like, he's awesome. I would get this, because it's like a really not okay thing to say to your partner, to be like, "I love you more than you've loved me." But like in this one instance, for once, I was like, you know what? Rory actually, like, from his point of view, there's nothing to dispute that fact. And like Amy's comeback defense to this is like really weak, because she could have come up with all these things like, "I gave up traveling with the Doctor to be with you." Like she could have pointed out how devastated she was when Rory gets wiped out from history in Hungry Earth, Cold Blood, right? But instead she just goes for, "Well, I let you go, and that shows that I love you more than you loving me for waiting 2,000 years." She's basically making it out like Rory's waiting means less than Amy just giving him up. And then
it's interesting.
Rory doesn't even get a chance to defend himself on this, because she's like, "You've always wanted kids, and so I let you go." And Rory like doesn't even get a chance to be like, "I didn't," like Rory doesn't have a line where it's like, "Well, I didn't care if we had kids anymore. Like, you just, like, we never actually talked about it." Like, I feel like if they just...
Perfect opportunity for River to show up.
I don't know. I just feel like Rory didn't get an opportunity then to come back and be like, "Well, no, you've misinterpreted the situation," because like the thing is, like, Amy was the one who kicked Rory out, and it seems like Rory...
It doesn't look like it from the flashback. But
it doesn't look like it from the flashback, but Rory, like, clearly... It seems like Rory has a lot of things to say, how they never really got a chance to talk about this, or like how it's just a big misunderstanding, because she's like, "You've always wanted kids. Even since we were kids, you wanted kids." And he, like, doesn't have any explanation, like, "Well, no, you misinterpreted it. Like, we had a kid, and I just want to be with you. Like, I don't care about having kids anymore because I'm with you as long as I have you." But he doesn't say any of that. The scene is like cut short right at that moment because they discover Amy's got the nanogene bracelet on.
Well, here's my take on this, and here's my big problem with it, is that it's dumb soap opera garbage nonsense.
Welcome to the Moffat era.
But even...
I think... I don't know. Sorry, are you going to say more?
No, I'm done.
I think that a lot of this has to do with who Rory is and who Amy is.
Mm-hmm.
So Amy, I think from the get-go, was set up as this really cool, everyone wants to be with her, even though her life is a mess, she's a strippogram for crying out loud, but still she's seen as the one who you want to be. And Rory's seen as the dorky, daggy, nobody would ever want to be with them. What was that?
I said Rory's freaking awesome, though.
Well, I think he is, and I think we start to see that Rory has so much going for him. But in his early days, he's sort of seen as the bumbling one who just tags along for the ride.
Right.
And I think I don't want to get too deep on things, but I think if you've been in that situation all your life and you felt like you're the worthless one, and you meet someone else who you think is much, much better than you, you can start to fall into that trap of always thinking, well, why would this person want to be with me? And I love them more than they love me. To me, that's what's going on here, that it's just, showing those old roles. But we already know, and as Stu said, that she does love him. She's waited for him as well as he's waited for her. And, she's grown to realise how important he is and that she loves him more than the Doctor, even though the Doctor impresses her. She's not in love with the Doctor. She's in love with Rory. So I think all that is kind of mixed up in it. But I see what you're saying, that you don't buy it, and it's it really falls flat and it's a bit soap opera-ish over the top. So it probably depends on how you come at it as a viewer.
I mean, I don't get too much into Amy actually loving Rory, but I think I can count on one hand how many times they've actually hugged or kissed on this show, right?
Yeah, but that's the family-friendly side of things, isn't it? I mean, they make up for that in this episode.
Yeah, that's
certainly
fair.
The longest kiss I can ever remember in Doctor Who history.
I'm just waiting for that long-awaited period when Doctor Who decides to ditch romance again, which I believe is the 13th Doctor.
Clara's arc involves ditching the romance,
no.
I think.
No, I don't think it happens in the 13th Doctor. I sorry to spoil things for you.
I just got thoughts that are differing from
No, I'm just gonna say there's romance all through the 13th Doctor.
All right, okay.
Oh, God.
All right, hang
Not
on.
necessarily with the 13th Doctor, but yeah.
Hang on. All right, I mean, I guess.
Why can't we just go back to the good old days?
All the main characters have a relationship at some point.
Really? Yes?
Yep. Except for one. But the main characters all do.
Oh, well,
But man,
we'll get there.
why can't we just go back to the good old days of the first, second Doctor, really most of the classic series?
Okay, well, hang on. Freaking Barbara falls in love with that
Yeah,
dude
but that was
in the
just a
Daleks.
one-off
That was the
thing.
second
It's like a one-off
episode.
thing. It's like a one-off thing.
That was the second episode. The
one-off
second
thing.
serial.
It's like a one-off thing. It's like a one-off thing. Wasn't an overarching type thing.
Zoe was intensely over-sexualized her entire run on the show. So I don't I think you're looking at it through rose-tinted glasses here.
I don't
think there's any
am.
relationship in Pertwee's era.
No, there's not.
I mean, there's that implication that Sarah Jane is in love with the Doctor.
Yeah, but I think that's a bit tired, to be honest. I think she's... I don't think you can assume that. Also, I would say with Tom Baker's era, the implication is that him and Romana too are having a relationship, but it's never explicitly said. But the other companions don't tend to have relationships.
And it's nothing
together in Tom Baker's.
It's something as overblown as this, but
I mean, there are definitely instances throughout all the episodes where one of the characters quote falls in love unquote with someone in the story.
It's not
I'm
as
putting it in quotes because it was a single
thing.
episode long, and they never really made it convincing.
It wasn't essential.
Actually, and I just remember that Pertwee did because Joe fell in love with.
Joe literally her departure is she falls in love with a dude and goes to South America. So,
yes. And there's a big Finnish audio that continues that.
She becomes Joe Jones.
Can't keep Katie Manning out of Doctor Who, even if you wanted to.
Worst name ever. There's another nice little bit here where when Rory and Amy sort of get past their differences, the Doctor looks into a camera and fixes his bow tie, and it's kind of to let Amy know he's fixed their relationship. So it made Stu and I laugh. But it's referencing back earlier where she says you can't fix everything. Not like you fix your bow tie. So he fixes his bow tie and said, there you go, your relationship's fixed now just because I put my bracelet on you.
It's interesting that he's gone back to his
old ways,
his older outfit, because he had a longer coat.
When he said he was going to be more low key, and then
that's actually this episode is the start of his attempt to do that, because Oswin erases him from the Dalek hive mind, so the Daleks don't know who he is, and that actually instigates his kind of overarching plot this season, where he's trying to go around erasing himself from people's databases.
Wonder if anyone picked up that explosion.
Well, that was the Daleks. So.
I know, but like, you gotta wonder.
So I'm going to say a bit more about the Daleks again. So I don't find this. How do you refer to it? New Who? I don't find the New Who Daleks very scary. When I was younger, they were a hell of a lot scarier because they used to be killing people all the time and torturing them. But you don't see them really doing that these days. That used to be their reason for living. Mm-hmm. But the reverse is true for me with the Cybermen, particularly because of the conversion sequences and how horrific they are in New Who. So I only remember one conversion sequence from the classic series, and that was in the Sixth Doctor episode. Shout out to Colin Baker, second favourite Doctor. However, the scene in the infirmary I actually did think was a little bit scary when the Daleks were coming alive. And, trapping the Doctor. I thought that actually was a bit scary.
Yeah, so these are the intensive care Daleks, and Oswald's like, oh, the planets are listed here, and she lists Spiridon, and I was like, yeah, throwback! Wow. And Vulcan, I think, also she lists, which is, yeah, throwback! The Doctor's like, yeah, these are the Daleks who survived me.
Yes, it was that was a nice line, I thought.
But Oswald eventually gets the door open, he's like, yep, you're a Dalek.
Well, hang on, just before that, Stu said he thought the Doctor sounded very disappointed when he said, you made them forget me. He's like, how dare?
Well, he's trying to be more low-key, and he realizes this is the way to go about it, right up until Nightmare in Silver, when someone basically ruins his entire plan with one line. He's like, oh, right, but we'll get there. Yeah,
this is depending on how you feel about this episode or not, I thought this was where it was all heading. It was all pointing at this moment, the reveal.
Yeah,
it's definitely building up to this.
That Oswald is
how
a Dalek.
Well it works.
We get 4 hints. So one, Amy didn't realise she was turning into a Dalek. Oswald could hack into Dalek security that even the Doctor couldn't. The Doctor couldn't work out where she was getting milk to make her souffles. And I actually think the fourth hint is that we saw the Daleks start to say exterminate to Rory by just saying the word eggs, which she then echoes.
Which is apparently done in a Seventh Doctor comic 20 years before this.
Oh, really? There you go.
According to the wiki.
I thought it was quite devastating to see a Dalek who thinks it's human. And
I think it is quite devastating. This scene is particularly cruel on the part of the Doctor because he basically hammers home the fact that she's a Dalek when he could have just been like, well, you're a Dalek, but you can come with us and make it just leave, right?
Having a Dalek on his side would be pretty useful.
Yeah, especially since the Daleks seem to be able to destroy pretty much anything in the universe with their ray guns. Right.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
But he wants to keep a low profile. Maybe they'll do
something with that in future.
The Doctor does get a Dalek on his side, not to spoil too
much. No, I didn't want to say it.
Thanks for ruining that cool little quip, Dylan.
I thought it was quite devastating to see a Dalek who thinks it's human. So it's actually trying to... we actually see the Dalek talking. Mm-hmm. And it's also devastating to see that Oswald's genius led to her full conversion. Just a bit of a side note, bit annoyed that they stole that line because that's a Cybermen thing to do, full conversion. Yeah. But I was, and when we see Oswald in the reality of actually her being trapped inside the Dalek body and she's beside herself, to me that scene was quite horrific.
Yeah, we keep getting intercuts between her talking to the line being finished by the Dalek casing, and then I, obviously, being the superfluous person I am, wondered if everything that Oswald said to the Doctor this whole episode was also being said by the Dalek just inside this panic room.
Well, I think it was. I think that's the implication.
Well, here's the thing. Here's why I think this is pretty well done, is that it would be so easy. They do this as she's living out a sort of dream, right? That she's trapped within this sort of bunker area. And it would have been so easy to just do this as a first person thing, which would have given it away pretty readily that she, isn't human or whatever, but they go about it in this way where she's in this alternate world and living out this fantasy or whatever. So I thought that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
And she's also got reasons to be using keyboards and things like that. Right. So they give her ways of interacting, which then isn't obvious that she's a Dalek.
Right.
Pretty horrifying intercuts to her conversion throughout all this too.
Oh, man. I actually think when they make the Dalek talk to the Doctor at one point, you can almost empathise with the Dalek, which I haven't seen them do before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I actually felt sorry for a Dalek for, I think, the first time.
Mercy. Mercy.
Yes. And then we also... So I think we've already said that, Oswin is the same actor that plays Clara. We hear Clara's theme actually for the first time, because Clara's character ends up having an actual very distinctive theme, and we hear that for the first time when she tells the Doctor to run.
Yeah.
Which I thought was nice.
She says this line, run, you clever boy,
yes.
and remember.
Then looks straight at the
She looks straight
audience.
at the camera.
Yeah, which freaks me out a little bit.
It's a little bit of a wink, nudge, nudge moment there.
Yeah, everyone remember that. Run, you clever boy, and remember. Remember that one.
She also says, remember me, specifically right before she says that line.
Yes.
So.
It's all very belonging.
That's one of those lines that makes me wonder, like, how much of her story did he have planned out when he wrote this episode? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, he must have had a bit, because he writes ahead of when the episodes are made.
Right. But I'm thinking, like, all the way to the end of her run on the show, like, how much... Like, some of the lines she says in this, like, make me wonder, like, did he have all the way out to that planned already? And I actually think the answer to that is no, because her write out is like a lot later than it was originally going to be, because there's a lot of contractual stuff going on. But
I mean, when you write a story, you're gonna write out the major parts of it, right? You don't have to fill in the details. So, like, if you write out parts...
Right.
And then you, like, go back and see, like, oh, this can touch back to this, and then fill in something later on. So,
well, yeah,
it can be the opposite of
But I think the answer to this is actually, like, specifically no, because she was originally going to be written out a lot earlier than she was, and there's a moment where you can tell where she was actually supposed to be gone, and
like Rose.
Things happen behind the scenes, and then you can tell it got changed, like right up at the 11th hour it got changed. 11th hour is as the phrase, like right at the last moment it gets changed. So
wow. Well, that's the thing with TV making is that there's so many factors that go into it and so many people who go into it that it's not going to, story's never going to play out totally as and that's why I'll often have a problem with the written by Stephen Moffat or written by, whoever it is. It's and then you go and look up production info, or you don't even have to, you just kind of know that all right, this story is a result of so many other people and not just
but I think the
them.
Stephen Moffat written stories are the ones that are going to be closest aligned with the author's vision, since he has so much creative control over the program as a whole.
I guess. I mean, there are always other factors, always other people.
I think knowing how Moffat works and knowing how TV shows are put together, you have an overarching sense of where the season's going to go, and you divide the season up into episodes right at the start. So you say, this episode's going to be about this episode's going to be about that. We're going to get someone in to write it. Now they can mould it around the frame that you've set up, but it's got to hang on that frame. It's not that someone comes in and has a completely new idea and you go, oh, I never thought of that. Why don't you write an episode? Occasionally that might happen, or they might have to drop some episodes out because they don't have time to make them, or they might have to drop a new episode in, and so they have to come up with a completely different idea. But yeah, they would know some major arcs that were coming up, and they would know to head towards those.
Right. I mean, it's something to talk about when we inevitably get there. The march of time continues. The march of the podcast continues.
So when the Doctor gets back onto the Dalek ship, pops out and says, "Suckers!"
He teleports straight into the TARDIS because he tells them that they're going to teleport up to the ship, and Rory's like, "Well, that's not a good idea." And the Doctor's like, "We're doing it anyway." Yeah. And he teleports them into the TARDIS somehow, which I question, since it was a specifically introduced idea that the TARDIS has a force field to prevent teleportation. We actually forgot to mention this humorous line that actually appears in The Doctor, the Widow of the Wardrobe, and I wanted to mention it, forgot. I'm going to bring it up now. When what was her name? Madge picks the lock on the police box, and the Doctor's like, 900 years of space travel suddenly seems a whole lot less safe. But there's specifically been introduced that there's a force field around the TARDIS that prevents people from teleporting into it. Otherwise, like, the Daleks would have, like, teleported into the...
Well, here's the thing you have to remember
TARDIS
about
before...
Doctor Who, is that everything they introduce is there when they need it and not there when they need it not to be there.
Well, the best example is the sonic screwdriver that works on everything except the things it doesn't work on.
Freaking wood.
And actually, have you seen that bit where Tom Baker turns to the camera and says, even the sonic screwdriver won't get me out of this one?
Well, I like when they just destroy the sonic screwdriver in the Visitation, and the Pithock's like, I feel like you've killed an old friend, and then we like never get it back because J&T so hated the sonic screwdriver being used to get out of everything.
Look where we are now.
I love the sonic screwdriver. I had my first ever sonic screwdriver, made by a fan, looks like Tom Baker's, is metal, makes sounds, beautiful, love it.
Nice.
Wow.
I'd probably better than
I put
the
it under
official
my
one
pillow
you might get.
every night. No, I don't. Stu had another thought about the Doctor being forgotten by the Daleks. He said earlier he is disappointed, but now he has worked out the benefit of it because all the Daleks have started going, "Who are you?"
Yeah, they go, Doctor Who, Doctor Who.
I love
like,
that.
Indeed, Doctor Who.
Oldest question in the universe. Haha.
I love it when Doctor Who is actually said in the show, and the fact that it was said by the Daleks and the Doctor in this one, I was just over the moon. I was like, yeah. And I was actually sad that Oswin ended up being a Dalek, because at this stage I had thought throughout this episode, gee, they're spending a lot of time on this character. I wonder if she's going to end up joining the crew. Mm-hmm. And when she didn't, I was like, oh, that's a bit of a shame.
No, she gets
now that character's gone. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just knowing if you had kept up with the production, like at the time, like just going into this, and I think we touched on this earlier, is that like her dying at the end would be more of a shock than her actually joining because of what people had known at the time about what's her, Jenna Coleman.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think she's going by Jenna Louise Coleman at this point on the show, but I think now she goes by Jenna Coleman. I think she dropped the Louise, if I remember correctly.
I might have said this stuff earlier, but what I liked about this as an introduction story is she's not actually competing with the other companions. Mm-hmm. So we don't feel threatened by her. She's just a character who we feel quite good about. And the only other time I remember someone being used again, and you can correct me because you've watched a lot more of the early stuff than I have, but I remember with Romana too, that was a recycled body. So she said, I like this body, I'm going to use it.
Right, she was Princess Astra.
Yeah.
Literally the serial before, and she's like, I like this. And the doctor's like, you look like Princess Astra. She's like, I know, I liked her.
Stephen.
Like, who's gonna mind, sort of thing.
Stephen was in The Chase as another character.
Mm-hmm.
And also in The Chase, Peter Purvis was in The Chase as two different characters.
I think he was as that guy that they meet.
Yeah, he was the reporter in New York or whatever. They got the camera. There's another
Empire
one.
State Building.
There's another instance of it too.
Colin Baker plays a guard.
Colin Baker was a guard in Invasion of Time.
Oh,
Invasion of Time.
Yes. Well, even Avon's in Doctor Who at one point.
Yeah. Avon is
we actually,
in...
Can I just say, I was so excited.
No, Villa's in the
We were watching Law and Order UK the other night, and there was
Peter
a judge,
Davison's
and Stu said, he looks familiar. And I said, that's Avon.
I've watched part of that show. I didn't even realize. I guess because I watched it before Blake 7. But Peter Davidson's in that show, as is Bradley Walsh.
Oh yeah, Bradley. Yeah, he's a main character, and so is Freema Edgerman.
The show actually gets cancelled because Bradley Walsh leaves the show. I don't know if you know this, but Law and Order UK, by the end of the show, Bradley Walsh is the only character from the first season still on the show, and then he's like, well, I want to move on, and the show gets cancelled because once he leaves, they're like, well, I guess we don't guess we'll die now.
Guess we're done with this one. So do you want to hear Stu's rundown of this episode?
Yes, let's hear it.
He said he doesn't think this was one of the better episodes. Mm-hmm. He liked the foreshadowing that Oswin was a Dalek. He said he didn't actually get that until right at the end, so he didn't figure that out. He said, I've already told you this bit, the Rory and Amy divorce and getting back together didn't do much for him. And he said, Matt Smith with his usual crazy self, and I quote, I like it when he's a bit manic.
Yeah, he's almost over the top in this. And actually, I think that's a complaint some people have about this season, is that Matt Smith seems to overplay it a bit in some parts of the season.
He's Series D Avon. Series D Avoning.
He's going crazy.
Nightmare in Silver is actually one of the ones where people are like, man, Matt Smith really needs to tone it back.
He gets a little,
Dinosaurs on a Spaceship too, actually.
He that Chibnall masterpiece. I don't know why I'm like railing into this episode
You
so
haven't
hard,
even
but
seen
like
it yet.
just the title.
That's the next one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's next week.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs on a spaceship.
Dinosaurs
I
on a
like
spaceship.
dinosaurs on a spaceship.
Well,
Yeah, I
remember
quite liked it.
the last
It was
Chris
silly,
Chibnall
but-
episode that was set
Anyway,
on a
you'll
spaceship.
deal with that next week.
42?
I actually
amazing.
liked the episode. You know, it's not a masterstroke, but it had lots of different parts, and I found it interesting that it kept, jumping to the next bit next. I guess I didn't pick it too much apart because it wasn't likely. I sort of let all that slide. I just found it interesting that they were all split up, and different people were going through. Everyone sort of had different motivations for what they were doing. I thought in this episode.
Well, this episode I thought was had a really good setup with the idea of Asylum of the Daleks, and it's this place where the Daleks that are too insane even for the Daleks end up, right? And I feel like that could have been used to greater effect. And
this is like the New Earth thing. Not New Earth. Oh yeah, New Earth. Pan over to a hospital and get New York, and then pan over to the hospital.
Yeah, but I mean, it's they weren't any different from the regular Daleks, right? They're shouty, angry, want to shoot the Doctor. I thought we'd have a bigger variety of.
I mean, I thought it was going to be Daleks who don't want to destroy and kill.
Yeah, Daleks like that, or a bigger variety, or experimental Daleks with different casings. I mean, the special weapons Dalek shows up there, which is the furthest extent we get of that. And some of the colorings of the Daleks are designed to reflect original series Daleks. Apparently, they borrowed a Dalek that looks like a Genesis of the Daleks Dalek from Russell T, surprisingly, to appear in this story. I just feel like they could have done more.
I didn't pick that up, and Genesis is my most watched episode. So I mean,
this episode is so badly lit that it's really difficult to actually tell the Daleks apart. The special weapons Dalek you can only tell apart because instead of having two stalks, it has one giant stalk in the middle, right? Beyond that, because the episode is so poorly lit, except for Oswin's room, you can't really tell the difference.
Field.
Actually, that's a nice bit of contrast, isn't it? That her room's so full of life. She's got the hammock and, obviously the oven and keyboard, and it's actually quite lively compared to the rest of the episode.
Right.
I thought the culmination was a masterstroke. To me, the whole episode was pointing towards that. So yes, the rest of the episode was a bit yawn, but I thought it was just one big setup for the reveal. And the reveal I thought was really good.
The reveal works. The episode's just all right to bad in my opinion. Because
I like the setup of them going to the asylum and all of that, and they enlisting the Doctor, and I liked all that in the force field and stuff. But once they actually start doing what they're supposed to be doing down there, it's all right.
There are parts of it that are good.
Yeah, definitely.
Parts of it that are good. I worked on my Fantasy Blake 7 while I watched this episode, and I was more interested in that than this. So.
Yeah, I must admit I enjoyed doing Fantasy Blake 7.
Mine redeems Tarrant completely and
really?
fully. Yes.
So it must be set before Blake.
Well, Tarrant's not even in mine, so, GG. GG, Tarrant, GG. GG no re, as my friend says.
Nah, Tarrant gets redeemed in mine. You just have to wait and see.
Yes.
By the time this goes out.
Did you do yours as audio?
No, mine's just a really long Word document. We'll be reading it on the episode. So
we're gonna read your entire 2,000 word thing.
3,000 now.
Oh Jesus.
3,000.
Mine's one sentence, just to put that into comparison.
I came up with an overarching plot for Series Z and plot summaries for all 13 episodes.
Oh,
Jesus.
Wow. You have really dedicated yourself to the
I went
task.
a little overboard. There's actually a note.
Was that why this week was the worst week of your life?
No. There was a note in the middle of my document that says, this is a little bit of a preview. There's a note in the middle. It's about one line. It says, this is the moment where I noticed I made the same mistake Terry Nation did when he was writing Series A, and I'm not even writing full scripts.
So did you get a lot of people who sent stuff in?
We actually do have quite a lot. And that's going to be a really long episode. We're recording it tomorrow, actually.
And there are a couple sitting on Twitter and email and comments, I think, right now that aren't on the doc yet.
Yeah. So.
Right. Did you get many for Doctor Who? Did you get any for Doctor Who? I think I did a short one.
Yeah, yours was the only one for Doctor Who. But then again, we never really even planned when we were going to
advertise that one. So that one's going to be probably a running thing until we can accumulate enough responses that we could do something with it.
I might try to do a better treatment for the Doctor Who one.
They
I
just,
don't know why I got really excited about the Blake 7 one and the Doctor Who one. I was like, yeah,
I
okay.
got really excited about the Blake 7 one too, as you can tell.
I didn't, as
I'll
you can
look forward
tell.
to it.
Oh,
Well, I think that's it for this one.
yeah, I was going to say I
there's
don't
anything
have
more
much
that
else to
can
say
be
on
said.
this one.
And I agree with you that the rest of the season's a bit ho-hum. As I said, I looked through it and I thought, oh, I don't want to talk about that, don't want to talk about that.
It's a little all over the place, really.
So mirrors
Yeah.
season 7, you know? Season 7 wasn't all that great.
Wasn't that the season with the master?
No, season 7 was Inferno and
oh, right.
Terror of the
Season 7
Autons.
was the really short one. They
Yeah.
only had 4 serials.
Yeah, what are the guys who can touch people and kill them?
Ambassadors of
Yeah,
Death.
Ambassadors of
the
Death.
most overpowered Doctor Who villain who never shows up again. They literally touch you and you die. Actually, they're not the most overpowered anymore. Chibnall introduced a much more powerful villain.
Oh, did he?
The damn Pating.
Oh, that. Yeah, don't
God,
get me
what is
started on
that? What is this thing?
Oh,
You
Just
just have
spoil
to.
it. Just spoil it.
You really want us to spoil it
Yeah.
right now?
I do.
no, we won't.
No. It's better if you
have to
see
enjoy
it in
the
I'm gonna look it
context.
up.
Right,
I'm gonna go
so-
look it up right after this.
You know what?
No, you're not, because
Interestingly
right
enough,
after
when I
this
was
we have more
cosplaying,
recording.
so
You
when I
would've-
was cosplaying, a lot of people said, "Oh, it's Jodie," and I said, "That'll be the Doctor to you."
It's Jodie.
You're
Yeah.
cosplaying as Jodie Whittaker, not in any role, just as her.
And I didn't have my 13th Doctor sonic screwdriver because the moron who I bought it from didn't send it to me in time.
Nice.
So I had to have River's screwdriver,
Close enough.
Sonic. And they kept saying, "That's not your Sonic." And I said, "Yeah, I know. River's got mine, borrowed mine, so I borrowed hers."
Nice.
Nice.
Played it
Yeah,
off.
I have it.
Played-
I have it now. I have
played
the
it off.
13th Doctor Sonic now.
Get a stuffed Pating for you.
Oh man, are they selling those? Because there was a theory that they'd start to sell those for Christmas.
I don't know, but if they do, you should get one.
No,
Complete that cosplay.
didn't appeal to me.
Get a stuffed frog. Those you can get anywhere.
I'm really
Well, I
curious
could
to
get
know
a
what's up
stuffed
with
frog
this
like the
frog.
Mormon.
Some people
stuffed
like
frog.
The frog,
the frog is the most
greatest
genius
moment in
move
Doctor
on
Who.
all of Doctor Who ever.
Yeah, I must admit, I let a lot slide in Doctor Who, and even I said, I kept saying that frog was so stupid, and Stu kept saying, "What was wrong with that?" And I was like, "Stu, come on,
I
it
mean,
didn't even look. It didn't
okay.
even look CGI."
you know, as the I guess the capstone to this episode, you know, I was on Reddit yesterday, and someone posted a thread that was like, "What's your favorite like completely whack moment from Doctor Who?" And someone posted this list, and they were like, "Look, if you're complaining about the frog, let's remember that this is the show that also did all of this." And then it lists
Right.
all these like completely stupid things that happened on the show at some point. Like, oh, I don't even remember any of them now, because I was like. I was lying in bed and I fell asleep. But I'm going to see if I can find it to link in the show notes. But he just lists all these like
You're gonna make me go on
completely.
Reddit.
He's
Damn it.
he lists all these completely like bonkers things that happen on Doctor Who. And he's like, so if you're complaining about the frog, just remember that this is the show that did all this other garbage.
So not wanting to spoil stuff because I don't think Keon's seen
No.
any of 13th. Have you?
No, I haven't. This is the farthest I've seen this episode.
Okay, so I don't want to do spoiling, but what was your overall feeling about the 11th season of Doctor Who, New Who? Dylan, did you think it was successful or not?
I liked it. No, I liked it. There were like 2 or 3 episodes where I was like, well, that just didn't land for me. But on the whole, I actually thought it was like pretty good, and I don't know why people were so detrimental towards it. I mean, it's obviously different than what we had got before. But
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. When you have something as long running as Doctor Who, the newest season is always going to be the worst, and what came right before that is always going to be amazing once
The best.
something new comes out. So once the
But
next
I really
season
liked-
comes out,
I liked
11 is
the
going to be
final
amazing.
series of Peter Capaldi, I have to say, right? You know, as soon as I watched it, I loved it. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it worked. I thought the season worked. It's very different. I could see people saying they didn't think it was Doctor Who, although there's so much Doctor Who in it. You know, it'd be a bit hard to hammer that home. But yeah, I was a bit like, oh, is the series any good still? And I looked back through the episodes and went, oh, that one was good, that one was good. Yeah, actually, it was good.
yeah, no,
But
I think it was
I think
good.
there's a lot of hatred for the Doctor becoming female, and I think a lot of people were just determined to be angry about that.
Yeah, and I have a lot of thoughts that I want to talk about on that season, specifically also in relation to Jodie's portrayal of the Doctor.
Hope you remember them like a year from now.
I will. But I actually found the list. I found the list of completely insane things this guy talks about. He's like,
probably not that insane.
There's a lot of contenders. Top marks to a robot Frankenstein suplexing a Dalek in a haunted castle in the chase.
Wasn't that insane?
Honorable mentions Jamie being turned into a cardboard cutout and the Doctor putting his face back together wrong, so he turns into a different actor for an entire episode.
Wasn't that insane?
A man being murdered by a sentient inflatable armchair.
Wasn't that insane?
Benton being turned.
That's right,
that was in the Master's first story.
Yes.
Where he teams up with the Autons and he has that inflatable chair in his office and the guy sits down and it just inflates and swallows him up. All.
It's perfect.
Benton being turned into a baby by a machine called Tom Tit.
Wasn't that insane?
And then he links to videos of the penis-shaped monster from that Fourth Doctor story.
From the
creature from the
pit. His penis too.
And then the scene where the guy gets turned into a cactus from Megalos.
Megalos was pretty. I'll give him Megalos. That should be on the list.
I can't find a clip, but the part in Silver Nemesis where a bunch of Cybermen standing around in total confusion, listening to freeform jazz. The Scooby-Doo chase sequence in Love and Monsters. The Doctor driving a vintage motorcycle up the side of the skyscraper. We're not there yet.
Why isn't the Raston warrior robot on that list?
No, I think the thing with the frog, right, is that the quality of the episodes got so good this year that just stuck out like a sore thumb. I think that's why people didn't like it.
But I loved it. I thought it was a totally genius resolution to that episode.
Really?
We're going to talk about it when we get there.
Yeah, we won't talk about it.
I'm just sitting here like, what is this frog that everyone is on about?
Oh, you'll find out. You'll find out.
Oh, boy.
I actually thought it was a clever episode, but yeah. But yeah, we'll just leave the frog there.
We'll just leave the frog hanging
on the side of the road with the Mormon, Book of Mormon frog.
Toss,
they can be frog friends together.
Toss the frog up and don't let it come down for a year,
Less than a year. 11 months. We'll be there.
11 months and you're on the 13th Doctor?
Yep. 11 months we'll be done with the 13th Doctor, actually.
Whoa.
It is, actually, no, it's 11 months will be on the 13th Doctor. It'll be February of 2020 when we finish the 13th Doctor.
I'm looking forward to hearing you do the last Peter Capaldi's season and the 13th Doctor. I think those are the ones I'm looking forward to the most.
This year, 2019.
Well, if this
2020 is the year Trust Your Doctor finally catches up, but 2019 we get close.
Well, if this episode is any indication, I'm ready for a new Doctor, and for really
already.
No, I am. I mean,
2 seasons.
Yeah.
Oh, Matt Smith's got a bit to go.
Yeah.
Peter Capaldi is actually the first Doctor I met. He's the first Doctor I've ever actually met. The only one, actually. Nice guy.
I haven't met any of them.
Neither have I, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
And I've met Martha and another companion that you haven't spoken about yet, so I'm not going to say that person's name. Oh, and Captain Jack I've met.
Nice.
I mean, like I said on this podcast, I was at the Comic-Con this 2018 when Jodie Whittaker was there, but I missed the Doctor Who.
Oh, wow. Oh, you didn't go to it?
I arrived too late in the morning to get in.
They've got it online anyway. They've got it on YouTube. You can just watch it on there.
That is true. I never got around to watching it, to be honest.
I was supposed to get a signed Blake Seven thing signed by Jacqueline Pierce, and she died just before they did the signing.
Ooh.
But that's okay. I found a card that she'd signed online, and I got that. It's official, so at least I've got her autograph.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got, what's her name? Jan Chappell's autograph, so I'm very happy about that.
Damn.
Yeah.
Callie was the one person I didn't... Well, Callie and Jen, I didn't find a way to work them into my Fantasy Blake 7. Oh, well, that's fine.
I put them all in mine.
But I did find a way to work Gannon.
I mean,
you know what? Fine. I found a way to work Gannon. So.
Jen is fine.
See, Gannon just wasn't in mine, so that's how I dealt with that. I actually had... I sent you guys pictures of Avon doing stuff. Like he does a big smile to camera at the end, but I couldn't figure out a way to actually do that with the audio. So
yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, I had to work on Villa in mine. I hadn't done much with him, and I thought, I want to have a bit more for him. And Avon, I don't think did much in mine, just a little bit.
We're basically just advertising
mine now.
Mine's just advertising the end of Zenith on this Trust Your Doctor episode.
It'll be out in 2 days.
Yeah, well, Trust Your Doctor. Everyone listen to the end of Zenith because it's going to go off with a bang. And
Oh,
even
it
if you've never
really
listened
is.
to it, you'll hear new stories that none of us have heard before. So,
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't have anything else to say on Asylum of the Daleks.
No, nor do I.
no, I don't have anything else to say on anything, I think, at this stage.
That being said...
Other than thank you once again
Yeah,
for
thank you.
Chatting about Doctor Who with me.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for being on again for this lovely
Yeah,
lovely
thank you.
episode. I'm referring to the podcast episode being lovely and not the TV show episode. This lovely episode. And, we always appreciate hearing from you, RG, and being on the
Cheers.
show. And if you would like to reach out to us, fellow fans, you can reach us at thedoctor@decadentvegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on the Daleks. You can find us on YouTube at Decadent Vegetable and Apple Podcasts and Google Play at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. And thank you again, RG.
Yeah, thank you, RG, for being on.
And,
You're welcome.
And next time we're going to be watching Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. But until then, the end.